A 2022 study found that only 7% of Americans can actually be considered healthy, while the rest are at pretty serious risk of various chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease that drastically cut down lifespan and quality of life. So today I'm sharing 5 clear signs that you're probably part of that 7%, plus 3 super easy daily habits that can help you get to that 7% if you aren't already there. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance. On my channel, I share the science-backed and delicious information to help you achieve your weight loss and wellness dreams without counting calories. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Today's video is also sponsored by Element, but more on them in a bit. Now, to be considered part of this 7%, you need to have every single one of these 5 things. Okay, the first clear sign is your BMI and belly fat. So for both men and women, if you're below a BMI of 25, then that is +1 for that 7% category. But then researchers also measured the waist circumference as well, which is a measurement of belly fat, as well as a way of indirectly measuring visceral fat. So for women, if you have a waist circumference of less than 88 centimeters or 34.6 inches, or for men, 102 centimeters or 40 inches, then that is another sign that you are part of that 7%. Now, BMI is a measurement of your height to weight ratio. It really doesn't tell you a lot if you just look at that number alone, but in the context of all of these other numbers, it can be a big indicator. And to measure your BMI is very easy. Just search BMI Calculator online. I'll put one link down description below if you want to check it out. And you're just going to put in your height and your weight, and it will calculate it for you. And then the next thing is you have to measure your waist circumference. This is really, really easy to do. You just need some type of flexible measuring tape, and then you're going to find the area just above your hip bones, and then you're just going to wrap it around your waist, making sure that it's not too tight or too loose, and just see what your measurement is. So I'm 29.5, which puts me below the 34.6 inches that I need to be considered in this category. Okay, the second sign is that your fasting blood sugar is below 100 and your A1C is less than 5.7. But there's a caveat to this one. These numbers must be achieved without taking diabetes medication. If you are taking diabetes medication, then this would be considered like 1 point taken away from that 7% healthy category. Now you can actually just test your fasting blood sugar at home. I have to get up and show you mine again. It's actually probably a good idea just to keep one of these at your house, even if you aren't struggling with like diabetes or blood sugar control, just to check in every now and then. I've had this one since 2018, I think, or 2017. This is just like the Keto Mojo one. It's really easy. You just use this little lancet. You do a finger prick test, and then you put it on these test strips, and it tells you what your fasting blood sugar is in that moment. And I believe this is one of the less expensive options, so I'll put that one linked down in the description below if you want to check it out. But it's important to make sure you do it first thing in the morning before you've had anything to eat or drink. I like to test it about 30 minutes to like an hour after I've woken up so that my body can just like settle and adjust. When you test your fasting blood sugar, if it's below 100, that is another point for that healthy category. But then for the A1C, this is an actual lab test that you have to get done by a lab. It essentially measures your average fasting blood sugar over the last 3 months. So if you've recently gotten labs done, or if you plan on getting labs done, it's pretty standard for them to have this part of the panel, but you can always just double check and ask them to add it in if it isn't, and it'll show up on your labs as either A1C or HbA1c. And you want this to be below 5.7 to be considered part of that healthy category. And one thing that has been part of my healthy morning routine for years now has been starting off my day with today's sponsor, Element. Element is an amazing electrolyte company that was specifically created with intermittent fasting, low carb eating, and athletes in mind. It actually contains the sodium, magnesium, and potassium to help replace lost electrolyte levels, all without having any sugar. When you're eating a whole food diet, or if you are eating a relatively lower carb diet, or if you're exercising a lot, that category of people tends to have higher electrolyte needs, myself included. And when I'm not properly hydrated with my electrolytes, I feel so much more low energy. It's like my brain doesn't function as well, which is why I like to take 1 packet of Element every morning after I work out to help replenish those lost electrolytes and just feel so much more hydrated and better. And this has been so important to me for such a long time that I used to just take salt, like literally just add salt to my water. And I was honestly not very consistent with it because it doesn't taste good to add just like salt into water. So I wasn't seeing the benefits of getting my daily electrolytes. But Element makes it so easy for me to get my electrolytes in because it actually tastes so good. My favorite flavors are their grapefruit salt and their lemonade salt. They are so refreshing, so delicious. But Element also comes in a lot of other delicious flavors too, like their citrus, orange, and raspberry. And you can get a free 8-count sample pack of Element's most popular drink mix flavors with any purchase at drinkelement.com/autumn. Find your favorite Element flavor or share it with a friend. This is only available through my link, so make sure to check out drinkelement.com INTERMITTENT.com/autumn. The link is also in the description down below. Okay, the third sign is that your cholesterol ratio is 3.5 or lower, and that is without taking any lipid lowering medications. So again, just like with the blood sugar one, if you are taking lipid lowering medications, then this would essentially be like a point taken away from that healthy category. Now you can get this measurement by just dividing your total cholesterol by your HDL. So for example, if your total cholesterol is 200 and your HDL is 50, then you would divide 200 by 50 and get the number of 4. And ideally, you want to be 3.5 or less to be considered in this 7% healthy category. Any standard blood test that includes a lipid panel will include these numbers, so you can just look at your latest labs, or the next time you get labs done, just make sure to check on these numbers too. Okay, the fourth clear sign is that your blood pressure is less than 120/80. Again, without blood pressure lowering medications. It could be totally fair to say that your blood pressure is one of the most important things to help determine your overall health, especially heart health, because high blood pressure could be a sign of so many things downstream. So like high stress, poor sleep, even insulin resistance can directly lead to high blood pressure. And you can get a blood pressure done very easily, pretty much like anywhere now. You can get it done obviously at a doctor's office, or even a lot of pharmacies will have those like free blood pressure cuffs that you can do right there in person. Or there's even at-home options. This is the one that I borrowed and still haven't given back to my dad. Dad, I know you're watching. I do need to give this back to you. When I was pregnant with my first baby and then my second, yes, I've had this for a while. I'm sorry, Dad. I will give it back to you. But it's just a blood pressure cuff that you can have at home. And it takes like a minute or less than that to actually measure your blood pressure at home. So along with having something like testing your blood sugar levels, also having something that measures your blood pressure would be a really great investment to just check in every now and then and to have at your house. But there are really wrong and really right ways to do it. So if you are going to test it at your house, you need to make sure that you have the proper setup. First of all, you need to make sure that you're in like a calm, collected state. You haven't been running around the house. You haven't just worked out. Ideally, you should be sitting calm and relaxed for like 10 minutes before you actually take your blood pressure. And then make sure you're sitting up straight and you don't have your legs crossed, because all these things can result in a incorrect reading. So if you are below 120/80, that is another sign you are in that 7% healthy category. Okay, and the fifth clear sign is that you haven't had a history of cardiovascular disease. So no heart attack, no heart failure, no stroke. Obviously, this is the one area that you can't really modify or change. If you've already had one of these things happen, you can't really like unhappen them, undo them. 5 months postpartum brain. It's coming back, I swear. What's happened has already happened, but that doesn't mean that you can't still drastically improve your health outcomes for the future. It's not all doom and gloom. There's actually a lot of hope and a lot of very, very simple things you can do that have nothing to do with taking medications. And one thing I do want to point out before we get into the very simple things you can do to drastically improve a lot of these numbers is that the study specifically didn't count measurements of lower blood pressure or lower blood sugar if they were lowered by medications. That's because medications can improve the numbers, that is true, but they don't always lead to those optimal health outcomes. So our goal should be to use these very, very simple daily habits to actually improve the numbers on their own. That way we not only see the benefits of those numbers changing, but we also get the positive health benefits and we feel so much better. So here are just 3 very simple daily habits that are science-backed that you could do to massively improve each of these numbers that we just talked about and get you so much closer, if not into that 7% category. But the first is to walk 8,300 steps per day. There was another recent study that showed even just 7,000 steps per day gave a lot of the same benefits. And then it seems to be that the benefits kind of cap out at about 12,000 steps per day. So I like to go for what another study suggested at 8,300 steps per day, which seemed to show more benefits than just that 7,000. But walking has such a ridiculous number of health benefits, it honestly should be prescribed by doctors. It is insane if it's not. Walking helps lower blood pressure, it reduces stress, it improves sleep, it reduces waist circumference, and it can help balance blood sugar levels. Plus, increasing your activity in general, especially with walking, can make you feel more energized and improve mental health too. And pretty much all of those can be achieved even with just 8,300 steps per day. That is not a crazy amount. That is totally doable. These sound so ridiculously simple that it shouldn't work, but they really do. And those small changes done consistently over time can be the difference between you having very great health or like subpar. Now, if you're brand new to that, I would recommend using something like a step tracker. I like to use a Fitbit, but there are so many others that you could test out and explore and see what you like best. I also have a free 100-mile walking challenge, which equates to about 7,000 steps per day. So if you want to check that out, I'll have that link down description below. Okay, the second is to cut out added sugars. I'm not even talking about all sugar. Like, I'm not talking about the sugar from fruit, even dried fruit for that matter, but let's just first talk about the added sugars, things that are in like sugar packets or maple syrup or sweeteners that we add into our coffees, because added sugars are one of the biggest contributors to increased waist circumference, increased belly fat, increased insulin resistance, and possibly even increased risk of heart disease. Just removing the added sugars, which are so highly prevalent in our day-to-day life, could be the clean slate that your body really needs and is begging for. My community absolutely loves my 7-day detox for exactly this. If you want to check that out, I will have it pop up right here somewhere. It's a great resource to help cut out sugar while also adding foods in that help to support liver detoxification and still make you feel really full and satisfied. I love using this program after the holidays or vacation, or just whenever I feel like I need a reset. But you can find it popped up right here. You can also find it on my website at autumnlnutrition.shop. Okay, the third daily habit is another very, very simple one, and it's to take fish oil or to eat fatty fish. Fish oil supplements or eating fatty fish has been found to help reduce waist circumference. It also can be great for reducing inflammation in the body, and a lot of chronic disease comes back to inflammation. And you can either do this by having fatty fish a few times per week, or if you're like me and you don't necessarily love eating fatty fish every week, then having something like a high quality fish oil supplement could be a good alternative. It's just important to note that fish oil supplements can interact with some medications, so if you are taking some medications, just check with your doctor first. Now, just these 3 daily habits can have such a mind-blowing impact on our health. And then once you have that new baseline where you're already feeling so much better, there are other little tactics and strategies that you can do to further improve your health and feel so much better. But I would say that at least those first 2 tips are the places that you would want to start first. Now, if you do need help cutting out added sugar, I totally understand, because I was an absolute sugar addict for a lot of my life, but there were a few very simple tips that I followed to help me essentially get rid of my sugar addiction. You can find that with this video next. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.